In this video, we'll continue to discuss schizophrenia and the genetic predisposition for schizophrenia, or if one exists. So when we look to see what the genetic contribution to schizophrenia is, we look at something called heritability. Now this term has come up before, and remember it's looking at the amount of variation in a given trait or disorder that's in a population that can be attributed to genetics. Now in order to study this, one group of individuals that's very helpful are twins. And what we do is we look to see if the rate of schizophrenia in monozygotic twins is higher in both twins than it is in dizygotic twins. Now remember, monozygotic twins, they're identical twins. They have 100% genetic similarity, and dizygotic twins are no more similar than regular siblings, except for they shared a uterus. So dizygotic twins, about 50% genetic similarity, monozygotic twins, 100%. So if individuals that share 100% genetic similarity, or if one twin has it, the other one is more likely to have it, that suggests a higher heritability. And so what we're looking at there is something called a concordance rate, a sharing of a characteristic. So if the concordance rate is higher in monozygotic twins than it is in dizygotic twins, that suggests a higher heritability factor. Monozygotic twins have about a 50% concordance rate for schizophrenia. Dizygotic twins have a higher concordance rate, so a higher similarity. If one twin has it, the likelihood that the other one will have it, than regular siblings. But wait, they both share about 50% genetic similarity. So what's the difference between dizygotic twins or fraternal twins and regular siblings? Regular siblings are born at different times. They have different in utero environments. Dizygotic twins share that in utero environment. So this suggests that while genes might be important, there also could be some sort of pre- or postnatal environmental effect that's increasing that risk. This figure shows the probabilities of developing schizophrenia. So in the general population, we have about a 1% probability of developing schizophrenia. Now, if we go down here to siblings, if you have a sibling, instead of a 1% probability, you have a sibling with schizophrenia, you now have a 9% probability of developing schizophrenia. Dizygotic twins, it's almost twice the rate, 17%. Monozygotic twins, 48% probability. And the children of two schizophrenic parents, 46% probability. But again, remember, this increase in probability doesn't mean you're destined to get schizophrenia because it's not 100%. There has to be some sort of environmental influence as well. So looking at adoption studies, so this is another set of individuals that are helpful when we're studying heritability. So when we look at adopted children, we see that they're more likely to develop schizophrenia if a biological parent has it. That suggests heritability. But they're much more likely, so that probability rate goes up to develop schizophrenia if they have a biological parent and an adoptive parent that's severely dysfunctional, suggesting biology and environment. So more than a dozen genes have been identified. So research suggests that there is the genetic component, but it doesn't depend on a single gene. There's a lack of replicability across populations. And one thing I really think is that perhaps it's because schizophrenia, well, all individuals that are diagnosed with schizophrenia are lumped into the same category, and thus when we're looking for genes, we're looking for genes in all these individuals, that perhaps there are subsets to this disorder. A lot of the genes that have been identified seem to be important in brain development, glutamate, connections between the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, but again, there's a lack of replicability. So why can't we find a gene? If there really appears to be this, and out of all the disorders I'm familiar with, schizophrenia really seems to have this true genetic component to it. So why can't we find a gene? Is it natural selection? People die younger, they don't have as many children. One possibility could be this idea of epigenetics. So again, we've talked about this previously, earlier in the semester, and that's the idea that it's not an actual change in the DNA, but the way that the DNA is processed by increasing or decreasing the rate of transcription based on methylation or acetylation. So in order to study this epigenetic process, if we use twins that are discordant for schizophrenia, and we look for and find DNA methylation at several genes, it suggests that perhaps it's this idea of epigenetics that's contributing to any differences that we see, and the problem with finding one gene, because it's not a gene per se, it's epigenetic changes that ends up resulting in a person developing schizophrenia.